Brook Weber wasn't the kind of woman who vanished without a reason. At 26, she'd just landed her biggest freelance gig yet, shooting autumn landscapes for a travel magazine. Friends described her as vibrant, fearless, and always chasing the perfect light. She'd moved from Ohio to a quiet Montana town just 6 months earlier, hoping the peace of the countryside would help her creativity flourish. That Friday evening, October 14, 2017, the air was crisp, the sky painted in orange and purple streaks. Brook texted her sister at exactly 6:42 p.m., saying, "One last shot by the creek, then I'm heading home." That was it. No follow-up text, no phone call, just silence. By the next morning, that silence became deafening. Her sister tried calling again and again, straight to voicemail. When local deputies began searching, they found Brook's car less than 3 miles from her last known GPS ping. The headlights were still on. The keys were in the ignition. Her camera sat on the passenger seat, its lens shattered like it had been dropped in panic. A single muddy footprint, too large to be hers, marked the edge of the driver's side door. Nearby, drag marks led into the trees, but ended abruptly at the creek bed, washed clean by rain that had fallen overnight. Whatever happened there, it happened fast. Neighbors told police about a man who'd been seen lurking around the trail that week. A construction worker named Dale Harker, who lived in a rundown cabin not far from where the car was found. They said he'd been seen watching Brook during her photo sessions, always pretending to just be passing by. He was questioned once before, back when another woman had gone missing from a nearby county. But with no proof, no body, and no witness willing to testify, Dale was released. That night, under a dim porch light, he smoked a cigarette as officers drove away, a faint smirk on his face. While somewhere deep in the woods, the sound of rushing water drowned out the faint echo of Brook Weber's last scream. 3 days after Brook's disappearance, a pair of hikers stumbled upon something strange near Clearwater Creek, an area locals avoided after dark. What they first thought was a half-buried storage crate turned out to be something far more disturbing. The box was roughly 6 feet long, reinforced with old nails and heavy wood panels. It had air holes drilled into the top and a small square cut out on one side, covered by a mesh screen. Inside were traces of human presence, an old blanket, 2 empty plastic water bottles, and a cracked wristwatch that had stopped at 20:17 a.m. When the sheriff arrived, he noticed a smell of soil and metal, a mixture that felt unnatural, like the air inside had been trapped for days. But what truly froze everyone in place were the scratches, deep, desperate claw marks carved into the inside walls of the box. Investigators quickly realized what they were looking at wasn't just evidence, it was a prison. Someone had built this box to hold a person, not for hours, but for days. The way it was designed suggested planning small vents for air, food wrappers hidden beneath the blanket, and duct tape residue near the corners where wrists might have been bound. When forensic teams analyzed the wood fibers, they found traces of human skin and a strand of long, blonde hair. Later confirmed to match Brook Weber's DNA, it became horrifyingly clear she hadn't been killed right away. She'd been trapped, left to fight for her life inside a coffin-sized cage beneath the ground. The box wasn't a burial site. It was a message. As news spread, fear gripped the entire county. Reporters swarmed the quiet Montana town, dubbing the case, "The Girl in the Box." Candlelight vigils lit up the courthouse steps. But behind the scenes, the FBI's behavioral team painted an even darker picture. Whoever built that box wasn't new to this. They'd calculated every inch, predicted every move, and enjoyed watching the struggle unfold. The box had been placed just close enough to the surface that Brook might have believed she could break free, but deep enough that escape was nearly impossible. It was the work of someone who wanted control, who fed on hope before taking it away. And in that small, silent space under the earth, Brook Weber had faced her captor's twisted masterpiece. One plank, one breath, one scratch at a time. When investigators brought Dale Harker in for questioning, the air inside the small Montana sheriff's office felt heavy. Like the walls themselves knew something was wrong. Dale didn't look nervous. He didn't even look surprised. Wearing his usual flannel jacket and mud-stained boots, he sat across the table, fingers drumming lightly as the detectives laid out photos of the box, Brook's camera, and the footprint near her car. For a man accused of abduction and possibly murder, he was disturbingly calm. When asked where he was the night Brook vanished, he gave a smooth, practiced answer: at home. Alone. Watching TV. He even laughed when one detective said, "You're our prime suspect." Dale leaned back, smiled faintly, and said, "Then you don't have much to go on." They ran the usual tests: fingerprints, hair samples, lie detector. but nothing tied him directly to the crime scene. His boots were similar to the print found near Brook's car, but not an exact match. His property search turned up nothing more than old tools, beer cans, and hunting gear. And when they ran his alibi through cable company records, it checked out. His TV had been on that entire night. The lack of physical evidence left the investigators frustrated, though one of them, Agent Sarah Mills, couldn't shake the feeling that Dale was enjoying every second of this. He spoke with a quiet confidence, the kind of tone that said he'd rehearsed this moment. He even asked, "Do I get my picture in the paper now?" before being released. After Dale walked free, the case began to unravel. Leads dried up, witnesses recanted statements. Local rumors turned into ghost stories. People claimed to see strange lights near Dale's property. Others swore they heard digging late at night before he packed up and left town. Meanwhile, Brook Weber's disappearance faded from the headlines, reduced to another cold case in a growing list of unsolved horrors. But behind closed doors, Agent Mills kept a single file open on her desk. Dale Harker's file. Something about the timing, the precision, the smirk, it all felt rehearsed. And deep down, she knew one thing with absolute certainty: killers like him didn't stop after getting away once. They waited. And somewhere out there, Dale Harker was waiting too. 2 years after Brook Weber's disappearance, a woman stumbled into a small police station in Moab, Utah just after midnight. Barefoot, covered in dirt, and shivering under a torn flannel shirt, she spoke only 5 words before collapsing. "My name is Brook Weber." The deputies on duty thought it was a cruel joke, until they ran her name through the database and saw the red tag missing. Presumed dead, she had a rusted key clenched in her hand, and around her neck hung a small wooden cross blackened by fire. When she woke in the hospital, her voice was hoarse, her eyes hollow, and her first question was simple: "Is he still out there?" What followed in the hours ahead would leave seasoned investigators speechless. Brook recounted her story in fragments at first, each piece darker than the last. She said she had escaped the box not by strength, but by luck. The heavy rain that night had loosened the dirt above her. She'd clawed her way through the soaked earth, gasping for air as mud filled her mouth and eyes. When she finally broke the surface, she could barely stand. She wandered through the forest for hours before finding an abandoned hunting shack near the tree line. Inside, she found canned food, a lantern, and a radio that never worked. She stayed hidden there, too terrified to move, knowing Dale would come back to check the site. For days she listened, footsteps, branches snapping, his voice calling her name like a taunt. He thought she was buried forever. He was wrong. According to Brook, she survived on creek water and whatever she could scavenge. She watched Dale from the shadows one night as he burned her belongings in a pit behind his cabin. Her jacket, her shoes, even the camera she'd used that evening. That's when she realized he wasn't planning to hide evidence. He was erasing her existence. Once he left town, she began moving again, always at night, crossing state lines with nothing but fear and instinct to guide her. She avoided cities, stayed off highways, and never used her real name. By the time she reached Utah, she had spent nearly 2 years surviving off the grid, haunted by the sound of rain and the memory of her own screams beneath the dirt. And even though she had escaped the box, she knew her story wasn't over. Not while Dale Harker still walked free. When Brook's story reached the FBI's Violent Crimes Division, everything changed. Her account reignited a case everyone thought was long dead. They reopened the investigation, this time armed with something they never had before: a living witness. Brook remembered details: the smell of gasoline on Dale's jacket, the sound of his boots on gravel, even the pattern of nails on the box lid. With those fragments, agents tracked him to a remote cabin outside Wallace, Idaho, where he'd been living under a false name, Dan Hartman. The area was isolated, surrounded by pine forest and forgotten mining roads. No neighbors for miles. When the team arrived one foggy morning in late March, they found the front door ajar, a faint hum of electricity still running through the place, but no sign of Dale. At least not yet. Inside the cabin, the scene was eerily still. Dishes sat in the sink, coffee half finished on the counter, and a TV quietly playing static in the corner, like someone had just stepped out and never returned. But in the center of the living room sat something that froze every agent in their tracks: a wooden box. It looked just like the one from the crime scene. Same dimensions, same nail pattern, but newer. On top of it lay a single envelope with Dale's name scrawled in handwriting that forensic analysts would later confirm was Brook Weber's. Inside, a small note read only: "Now you know what it feels like to be buried and forgotten." It wasn't signed, but it didn't have to be. Every agent in that room knew exactly who had written it. The search for Dale Harker intensified, but what they found in the following days only deepened the mystery. His truck was still parked outside, keys in the ignition. His cell phone sat on the nightstand, untouched. But there were no footprints leading away from the cabin, just one set leading in. The box had been closed when officers first arrived, and when they pried it open, they found nothing but a set of handcuffs, a burned Bible, and a camera memory card sealed in plastic. What was on that card would later become the most chilling piece of evidence the FBI had ever seen. And somewhere out there, in the quiet miles of forest and fog, a survivor-turned-predator was rewriting the story. The kind of ending only someone who had once lived in the dark could create. In the weeks that followed, the investigation into Dale Harker's disappearance turned up nothing. The woods were searched, rivers drained, and helicopters scanned miles of terrain. But there was no trace, no body, no signs of struggle, only that cabin and the box. Some agents believed Dale fled before the FBI arrived. Others whispered he never left at all, that Brook came back for him. Brook Weber was offered protection, counseling, a chance to start over. She refused all of it. She told investigators she didn't want justice, she wanted silence. A month later, she vanished again. No forwarding address, no contact, no trace. But every few years someone reports seeing her, a quiet woman with a camera, passing through small towns, always alone, always near the woods. And maybe that's how it was meant to be. Because sometimes evil doesn't die, it changes form. Sometimes the hunted becomes the hunter. And sometimes, just sometimes, the story doesn't end when the box closes. It ends when the one who escaped decides to open it again. If you liked this video, don't forget to hit that like button, share it with your friends, and drop your thoughts in the comments below. Most importantly, subscribe and hit the bell icon so the next secret finds you first.